Good evening. Welcome to Sunday evening coffee. Hopefully you can hear me this time. I'm a bit more chill, so if there is an issue, we'll just do a new stream, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Just let me know if everything's okay and if it's not okay. So I've kind of got 2 weeks worth because last week only lasted 10 minutes before I gave up. But it's so distracting when there's a problem and there's just no point carrying on, especially if I'm just going to get annoyed with it. I did intend to do something in the week, but it's been meltageddon, absolute meltageddon. Um, but it's a bit cooler now, which is why the show is this evening. So itchy. I've been bitten everywhere by insects. Um, I did it this evening because it's just been so hot and I've ended up pretty ill from the heat. I've done my best, but I still have failed in the bit of heat. So I wisely scheduled it for this evening, and I'm a bit more alive. We've had a little bit of rain. I'm looking at it now, which is quite nice. And this morning, so I've not really been sleeping in the night, and then I've been getting really sleepy, like 6 or 7 in the morning. So I didn't want to book the show just in case I just really needed sleep then, which I did, yay. But that's all boring. I've got lots of cool stuff to talk about. I know there'll be less people. 9 p.m. is quite late, but I've been trying to make myself stay up a bit later as well. So I thought nine's quite good then to because then I'll do some chores after this. I'll say late because I'm quite an early sleepy. I have, however, cracked open. I should pause it across the. Whoa, and let me show you what it is. So I scooch this way. I've got pajamas. I've got pajamas on. Not in my pants. I have this, and it's been looking at me since Expo, and I thought, hey, let's crack it open. I was going to save it for Sutton Who, but then I'd have to share it, so seems a good idea to me. I've got some cool stuff to show off. Got a bit of last week, and I've got loads of stuff about World War II to talk about, which is quite exciting. Andy says Annie's drunk stream. I've only had a little bit, I'm not drinking the whole thing. Big chunk there in this. I do like this goblet. Hello, gang. It's the Waterloo goblet. So there we are. Andy's watching to see if my sound goes again because he's been telling me ways I can fix it and I've been ignoring it. So he's mostly come to gloat, I think, if I have a sound issue. They're not easy fixes though. Got to plug, so you plug it in. Oh, I can see one of those lights there. Sorry, been out in the wild. Right. So I'll quickly go over. I can't remember what I did go into last week. But I had a lovely time in Peterborough, and I was really chill. And I don't know why that the um, computer not working just set off mega rage. I think it was the annoyance that my chill was coming to an end and I was back in the real world. So I'll quickly go over some of these cool bits from Peterborough. So I really like Old Scarlet. So he's in Peterborough Cathedral. If you missed last week, I went on a mini trip to Peterborough. This guy, I picked up a little postcard because I thought he was cool, but it basically talks about how badass he is, and he's just like this, I say abdominal, big, like, not abdominal. I haven't just had a sip. A beast, basically, an alpha. But he's got his picture, and he's just a little guy, and I just like the mixture of the two. But he's got some cool shoes on actually. His shoes, very Louis. Um, but yeah, I thought, well, if he had his portrait commissioned, he could have lied, like how people did, and give him a bit of an airbrush. But he's just there like it's just a little guy. But it says things like, where is he? A scare babe mighty voice with visage grim, second to none for strength, stirred limb, abominable. That's the one. And bless him, look at him there. So you can try and like Old Scarlet, that's it. You can try and preserve yourself over time, but the truth will always out. But I thought he was a cool little guy, so he's going up on on the office wall. So I've got here. I did talk a bit about Flag Fen, which was just wicked, and more people should go. So there's a little map of it. Got all the stuff you can do. I got quite a few people to say they're going to go, so I should be an influencer. Oh, that sounds like a terrible existence. Yeah. I just like saying that things are cool when they're cool. I guess that's the origin of influencing. Can you drink more and spill all the industry gossip? You know, get to the end and be like, hey, you know who else? You just step into an industry meet for that with my 2 beers in me. Nick says, map reminds me of a park run course map. You don't have to go that way either. I went all over. I kind of went to there, and I went like there, and then down there. Yeah, Flag Fen, just outside of Peterborough, is a Bronze Age site of a causeway, which is very exciting. And they've reconstructed a bit, and there's a little bit that's raw, unearthed, and you can kind of sit there and be in this crazy time portal, which I think I talked about last week. It's fantastic. Just it feels like there's just this line that's the time portal. It's really, really cool. So Flag Fen, and it's only like £8 or something to get in, and I think it's about £20 for an all-year pass. So if you live near, I totally get. It looked like there were people there just for the cafe, like locals come just to sit because it's a nice cafe, which I quite liked. If you like Flag Fen, I'd recommend Francis Pryor's Prehistoric Farming book. Well, I do have Francis Pryor's Flag Fen book. I was looking at his Prehistoric Farming, but I know I wouldn't read it imminently. It has to be about the thing that's literally in front of me, or Women in War. Oh, a Peterborough historian friend. Nice, nice. Yeah, so I did a chunk through this actually when I was away, because the peril is that it then goes back onto the shelf. But it's really interesting. It was nice reading about it whilst in Peterborough as well. So sweet book. There was a man in there and he went to buy it and then he said, this is too expensive. I'm not buying this. And I was sat in the cafe reading it and I went, you should, it's really good. And then I looked a bit like a paid plant. And he went, not for that price. Like that. So there's that. Oh, it's got a bit of breeze in there. Peterborough Cathedral. So I took a lot of little photos with the minis that I like doing, and I got some cool. I got some Mary Queen of Scots merch. So she was there for a bit, and then they moved her off to London. Got another one that I think's in the Flag Fen book. What did I use? Oh, let me just swap you out there, Mary. Yeah, we got Catherine Mark as well. Yes, they did the very long talk where they ask you for a donation as I came in, and I did cut them off mid talk just to save them the time. He said, "I'm gonna buy loads in the gift shop." So I much rather do that. This coaster from Flag Fen, we love. I was trying to explain it to John Hodgson the other day. I think he watches all these, so when he does eventually, this is what I was talking about. Like, I don't want to use it as a coaster because it'll end up with that ring on it. But I just like it as a piece of art, that it's so subtle, that it's a bit like the where am I going with this? It fits in with the whole faded memories of the past. That's why I really like it. It's like it's been, because I was saying to him something like, you know, like when they burn it but not fully burn it. But yeah, the close up there. It's just, yeah, it's just really subtle, and I think it's lovely. Yeah, very Shroud of Turin. So I kind of want to just put that up somewhere. I might put a little magnet on it or something. Just think it's really nice. Some note from holiday. I also got a nice Catherine of Aragon quote that's on my fridge at the moment. Very delicately glued to a massive magnet. It says, a queen's worth is not measured by the number of sons she bears, but by the strength and grace in which she reigns. Pop that on there. Oh, did I get a... I did get a long fork tower thingy. Watch my words on here today. Fridge magnet. but I've lost it. I think it's in one of my many pockets, but it's reminded me I need to get it out of wherever pocket it is. So I've got some merch, the ceiling merch, bunch of photos that I will be putting through various social medias. And we never got to talk about Longthorpe Tower, like themed bust. Again, a little treasure. Not edge of Peterborough, kind of in the like rurally, not the very centre, but it's still pretty central. And commissioned in 1330 by lawyer Robert Thorpe. It was a very big show-off tower. Look how much money we've got. But then it leaves some nice stuff for us peasants later on to have a little look at. There's a little bit of a gist of what you see inside. You've got to book it. Again, it's about £6.40. I think that was the price. And it's lovely. And the ladies there were wicked. They really explained it, because I said, as lovely as it is, I wouldn't have lasted. Well, I would have took a bunch of pictures, but there's only so much sometimes you can get where you're like, that's cool, and that meme of okay, let's go. But with the ladies explaining all of these points, and they were really nice, they were quite funny as well. There was so much going on there. I got a new favourite beast, which I'm not going to mention in case I mention it and someone steals it off me. But if you know Longthorpe Tower, you may know. But there's a medieval beast that I saw, and then I did my Googling 28 mil. Scratch, someone's got to have done that. Oh, they haven't. And I kind of might just throw that in the sculpting list for Alan amongst all the World War II. Just looking at this now. Little facts that were interesting. So, most of the bits which are the darkest black were the bits that were white, but they're lead that is oxidized. Interesting. Lots of symbolism going on. It's just me looking through the Longthorpe. Just something that's really near to where I've grown up, and I've just never noticed. But yeah, Longthorpe Tower, highly recommend. So you've got to go in got to go on a tour because they don't want everyone grubbing the walls, which I totally understand. So that was ace. I got back to catching up with stuff, and then it meant that I could finally get some real. I've had my hair in this bun like here, so it's entirely out of the way. Oh yeah, and I bought these beads. I bought some glass beads in honor of the past. Oh yeah, I did show those off last week. So on to this week. Dun-dun-dun. Oh, that is nice. And sour cherry. So I've now got the briefs for most of the World War II resistance ladies to the sculptor. He has sculpted 2 full figures and another 2. Oh, maybe I'll show you. I think I was going to show you last week anyway. And he's quite the way through another 2. There's a few more that the briefs need doing, but he's got plenty to get on with, and that gives me a bit more time to research. So today, I've then been stepping back a bit and researching. So I'm currently looking at Soviet resistance, even though there's only 1 Soviet partisan in this project. There will be more. There's going to be hell loads more. But I want to just get this off to a start and have a few people from, not everywhere, but a lot of places. We're currently on 20 figures, but I've also put on there maybe another 3 or 4. So just a nice variety of characters that have got stories. And then after that, we're going to expand into different theatres of war, so different groups of partisans or resistance. So some might be fully organised partisans. Just been reading about the Soviets and the mixture between the sort of civilian rabble, as you were, and the sort of organised official partisans, and how being a sort of a vigilante was very discouraged, very, very discouraged. And they were sort of parading not partisans. So, but yeah, those like vigilantes, probably the best word, without any sort of organisation. They're going, no, you have to join the official partisan organisation. So I've been learning about that this afternoon, and trying to get into grips with railway sabotage. So my search history, I'm fairly sure if I wasn't on a watch list, I'm now on a watch list looking at different examples and how to sabotage railway, and then buying books on railway sabotage. I will not be sabotaging any railways. I think that worked. So I've been learning more about those things so I can put them back into the miniatures. So one of them, I've got all my bits of paper, there's lots of bits of paper. Hedda Lund is one of them. And I've got what she looks like, but she did a lot of railway sabotage. So it's trying to figure out how to get that into an interesting mini. So she's not just like crouching jelly. Says, to be fair, I'm not sure UK railways need sabotaging. They kind of do it to themselves. This is true. Also, Nottingham Tram doesn't need sabotaging, so I won't be doing it. So I don't want her just crouching down. So I want her, might have her sitting, but with a bunch of stuff, because I'm always thinking about how these can be used in games, and there's characters that aren't themselves, so you don't have to use them as their specific person. They'll also work just as general resistance. Good old British rail, it's terrible. So I've announced it. It was a general good response, and I've decided to call it the Summer of Resistance, just as the sort of theme. But the Kickstarter is women of, well, that's boring, but that's what you got to do for search engines. It's not finalised, but it's basically women of World War II the resistance, or World War II women of the resistance, something like that. Maybe with an asterisk, because we've got one man at the very least. There's more men I want to do, but they're more Dutch, and I've already got 3 Dutch. I've got 3 Dutch. Some of it's only got 1. It's not fair. So I might save the rest of the Dutch for the next project. But Dutch is very good. What have we got? Stuff. There are notes. There are so many notes, but they're literally organised really well. I've been really impressed. So the heat has been overwhelming. The heat has conquered all this week. I don't know how far the heat has stretched, but I know in the UK we've basically just been melting. And the usual disclaimer, we don't have air conditioning, and the houses are built to keep the heat in. So when it gets hot, we'll die. So that's kind of slowed, but also kind of made me more determined. So I've been working later. I've been doing more evening stuff because it's actually livable. I've only had 1 shower today. I think I had 3 or 4 showers yesterday. Although it will end up as 2. I'm definitely showering. I was trying to get one in before the show, but I didn't have time. But it is, as they call, hot as balls. Nick says, tell us about packing heat. Yes, it is packing heat. Yes, if you've not had a look, I've been trying to give Johan a nice little boost on his Kickstarter, which is called Packing Heat. So if you put Packing Heat Kickstarter, so some skirmish rules for squads, is that the word? For sort of street combat, smaller scale combat that you can use across the genres. And it's one that I was looking at going, oh, I don't know if it's going to make it. And then the last couple of days, I'm like, oh, it can, but it must be so stressful. As I was talking to someone just before this, saying, I've been in the luxury where I've never had a Kickstarter not reach the target or look like it's not going to reach the target. But partially it's because I'd already built up a following before that. If you come from, and you can't really do that when you've got rules, because you can't, dribble out a few rules to begin with. You can a bit with PDFs, but you can't. So when you go independent, so a few people said, but the target's quite high. Look, that's how much it costs. So to be independent, he set a reasonable, we can do this target, rather than put in 100 quid or something and then it all going to hell. So it looks like, I'm not affiliated in any way, I'm just looking as a friend. Looks like he's really done his, added everything up on what he's going to need to make it. And there's a lot in it, so it's quite ambitious, in the sense that you get cards and markers and things like that. But he's got 6 days left and he could make it. And I think it would be so cool if he makes it, because it's just like, I understand what it's like when you've put that sort of work in and then it doesn't do what you expect. And say with Kickstarters, it's been different for me, but with normal releases, and yeah, it's a one guy operation, And I reckon if this kicks off, then that'll kind of give him that impetus to work on some more. I just think that's really cool. I haven't played the game, so I don't know what it's like. So I can't go, oh yeah, it's the best game ever. But it looks cool. I'm gonna give it a go. I haven't even pledged £1 this time. I've pledged for all the stuff. So I'm gonna have a little check and see if I can up it a little bit, see what's in there. So it's £4 the target, but they're on something like 330 at the moment. And again, I say they out of habit. It's just a guy. So it'd be really nice if it's either your bag to have a look and back it, or if not, if you want to just chuck a quid in, that always helps the algorithms and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, packing heat, have a little peep. And because of my Kickstarter announce, he's unlocked early the resistance bit for it, so it's got resistance rules. So makes total sense there. So yeah, have a little peep. Just got a little sip of this. Delicious nectar. They must have sold so much mead at Expo. They had 2 stands, so you could like catch you wherever you went. Also, why was I late to this show? Well, because some idiot was trying to corkscrew a pop top. It had all the foil on it, so I thought, well, that feels a bit like a cork. Why won't it work? Oh, so yeah. This genius is going to be running you through the resistance of the World War II. A cool thing I've got to show you is this little zip pouch. I've been going on to my friends' Redbubbles recently and just getting some things because I like supporting friends. Again, part of it's not that I'm a great person, it's the empathy of just knowing that you put so much into stuff and then people just don't see, and it's fine. And this goes back to my previous where it's like no one owes you anything. No one owes you sales, but it's really nice when they do. So that's why I've backed things like packing heat. I bought this. Did I need it? No. Have I found a use for it? Yes. This is from Snurg's Redbubble. It's been quite busy, so I don't know if he's been watching this recently. If you just put Snurg, I should have a link for all of these things. That is the fox, as part of the Weird World. And you may, if you're a crossover fan here, Weird World is a bunch of minis and lore on the Fenris website. That's because Joe, who is Snurg, is the brother of Ian, who is Fenris. They're technically both Fenris, but Ian's your day-to-day businessy Fenris guy. Joe tends to sculpt and has another artistic job that's very good. I think that's what's keeping him very busy. But this is Joe's artwork. I think it is. Of course it is. Duh. And I thought I'd just get a little pouch. I found a use for it. I was like, I'll find a use for that. My highlighter pens, my little annotation pack. Some of the pens are out at the moment because I've been using a little pen, and it's like. And I got a bunch of stickers. I also got It Is a Fox of Hand Puppets doing the storytelling. There's a lot more lore to it, but I haven't read Weird World lore in a while, and I forgot what most of it is, other than that Snurg is the big guy. Look at them. I know they've all got names, and there's. I've also bought a bunch from Handiwork Redbubble shop as well. T-shirts. So I've got the Dog Queen T-shirt and the Beowulf full print. The Beowulf, the full print one's like it says cotton, but it's got a slightly synthetic feel, which I'm not going near in this heat. It's cotton on out. Not going near it, but it looks very nice. I tried it on and going, oh, that looks very nice. I've been wearing the Dog Queen one. So maybe I should just get a little link, like a link to call people or something. So yeah, have a look. Also, what I've got a Redbubble shop. What? A guy on Instagram posted that his wife partner got him one of my Pegasai t-shirts for, I think it was his birthday or maybe Father's Day, something like that, as a gift. So he posted that on Instagram and it was very cute. And he also posed with his little baby pigs. They're like this big rather than mine, which are like this each. These were like, that was 3 pigs in a row. So they were like little rolls. Yes, Nix's Lowest Fenris Rebel Tea. Yes, they were very good. Tammy is the artist for that. Very good. So yeah, three pigs that big. Where I've got one pig that big. Although Carol's much smaller. She's more like a standard potato. Whereas Dave has been. I don't know if we can show you. Dave has been flatter and meltier, and he hasn't been like danger heat or anything because they've had the fan and everything, so he's not been overheat, but he's been melting otherwise. Robert, did you know that July is the 90th anniversary of the start of the Civil War? I did not. I can't put Spanish Civil War figures in yet. It's getting closer though, if that helps. Had quite a few people asking with this, going, but it's resistance. So like, I'm sticking to World War. It's already hard enough sticking at World War II because there's so many to get through. But I will do Spanish Civil War, and I won't do like all of World War II, then do Spanish Civil War. I'm going to do like a wave. I don't know if they'll come next. I might have a cheeky medieval break. We'll see. Let me just find these melty Daves. Because my knowledge on the Spanish Civil War is pretty rubbish, and I want to just. The reason I've never done it isn't because I hate it, although obviously hate all wars, you know what I mean. It's because I want to give it the justice, which is the reason I haven't done other partisans, because I want to do them proper justice. Look at this. Look at that flat boy. So I've got on the cage, it rotates. That's not bold, that's a smoosh patch. It rotates of like grid, perspex grid. So you can't quite see, but that's him smooshed up, smooshed up against the perspex. An absolute melted creature. He's got a very hard life, he has. So he's been extra puddled. Do have some cool stuff to show you. Also, what I'm very proud of is I've got my own metapod now. Go on, show it, show it. You can see a bit. Check that guy out. I don't think I've ever seen a chrysalis apart from maybe at one of those like gardens. So having one out in the gardens, awesome. So I'm checking in on him every day. I'm going checking on my metapod, making sure Andy hasn't got him because Andy's not an insect fan. So I have to keep making sure guard my metapod. I should stand out there with a rifle or something. Who else? Who else have I got to show here? I have to go in my massages. Series of photos from the Odette film. Because you can't print screen on Prime for privacy well, obviously copyright reasons, which meant I was having to pause it and then photograph. Also, you can see my ridiculous phone case, but look, it does that. So if you're ever bored and sat with your phone, just go, oh. And this is outdoor insects are fine. I haven't got like a chrysalis farm in the kitchen. It comes in and just the whole ceiling's just full of them, and you can just see different ones like reaching out of their metapod, butterfreeing everywhere. That's possibly will be Andy's nightmare tonight. I'm going to show you a bit of sculpt. Who have I got? See what Alan sent me. So Alan was having ideas of doing stuff this weekend, even though it's the weekend, but then he also realised it's really hot. So they're kind of stuck in this position at the moment, but it's not far off. And you can't quite see it yet. And a part of the oh, if you use OBS, I never thought about that. So this is Hans and Sophie Scholl. It looks like they're dancing, but they're not. You'll be able to see once it's all complete. They're jostling. They're in a good jostle. Because I spent so long deciding how I was going to show them, because their main act of resistance, like when you're resisting with a pistol, you can make a cool figure because you've got a rifle, you're shooting the rifle, but leafleting's not really an exciting miniature, and it kind of, it's just a bit like, oh, hey, I know how to use OBS. I choose not to because of the misery. Also, I could boot OBS Oh, up. Or I could just photograph the screen. It's fine. Um, so, what have I got? How's it going? Loving the misery. Oh, come on, breeze. How's it getting warmer in the evening? This is wrong. Um, yeah, so Hans and Sophie Scroll. I didn't know how to do them, and yeah, fly ring, and I was like going in a rucksack, going in a briefcase, and it was gone 9 the other night, and I was going, I'm not going home till I've got this figured out because Alan was ready to sculpt the next day. I just couldn't figure it out. I'm googling all sorts, jostling poses because I kind of had it in my mind. Um, but I have a friend called Rob and a friend called Charlotte who live around the corner from the office. Not to dox them. And I messaged them and said, "Hey, you guys around?" So I ended up at their house in their garden. I filmed an 8-minute video, which should probably be like a stretch goal to reveal, um, where it's mostly me laughing, and them just doing all sorts of jostling poses. Because I thought, right, I'll get a still out of this somewhere. There will be something. Um, so somebody's neighbours just heard me in the garden going, "Give her the leaflet." Oh, we don't want to give her the leaflet. Whoa, whoa, and various stuff. And then I still couldn't find what I was meaning, so I sent the video to Alan. He then watched the video and then said that was hilarious, and then sent me a sketch back of exactly. This is one of the reasons I love Alan so much. Um, it's been about 9 years, I think, working with him, and he always gets it. He always gets whatever weird thing I'm trying to explain. Um, I always feel bad where I'm like, a bit like, yeah, but then not quite like that, because also this. And then he goes, well, like this. Um, so he bloody nailed it. So that's what he's sculpting at the moment. So it's Hans and Sophie, and I've done a fun, and I was like, if it's fun, does it then negate the seriousness of what they're doing? Because it's a very serious project, and I'm not a serious person, and Bad Squiddo isn't very serious. But there's times where it has to be as well. So trying to find that balance of, we're fun Squiddo and also people dying in war is bad. It's been an interesting one. Because also it's that thing where you find dark humor in places as well, but also where it's like I've already found points where I've gone, no, that's not acceptable. Nope. Um, I don't know where I'm going with it. So I was kind of like, okay, I want to do them. I kind of want to do them dicking about. That's a British phrase. Just like messing around. You go, oh, they were dicking around over there. They weren't doing it right. They were just, Um, and they were brother and sister. They died at the age of 24. They died horribly. They got caught by the Gestapo, and they spent most of their lives, really, not adult lives, but their like before the war, they were interested in various different stuff. It was only after the war that they got really heavily involved with things because they both got into the Hitler Youth. Um, they both got involved with that, but it was through that they then went, hang on, this is terrible, and then went into the resistance. But I think, if I remember, their parents were quite sort of lefty, so they had the correct upbringing. They had that kind of in them, and then I can't remember what age they would have been. Maybe 19 at the start of war, 18. Um, I have absorbed a lot of information last week, but yeah, they didn't get as much chance to do the stuff that kids do and dick about basically. Um, So I've decided that they were. Oh yes, Sophie was 21, Hans was 24. Thank you. That's So yes, she was even younger. Um, yes, because Hans had been involved in things before that. One of the times he'd been arrested for a bit of troublemaking, and then they found out that he was gay as well. So we had a whole thing around that. He did get pardoned in the end, I think, because they kind of liked him, got papers everywhere. But it was like, oh, this was a bad choice of youth or whatever, on you go, which was quite rare. Um, but yeah, he'd had run-ins for longer. That's the one. But yeah, so I thought, I could just do them leafleting, but it just doesn't it just doesn't have any emotion to it, and it's not just leafleting, it's more than that. So the sculpt for this is them they're kind of just messing about, dicking about, um, messing about with the flyers, going like, "Oi, give me the flyers! I'm gonna do this street. Can I have the flyers? Oh, you want these flyers?" That sort of, yeah, just having a laugh. Because they didn't really get much of a chance to have a laugh because this happened, say, when they were quite young, especially for Sophie. So I just thought that was a nice thing to do, and I'm sure there were times. There's one photo just before Hans is going off to, can't remember which one. I don't think he went to Stalingrad. I think some of the other White Rose went to Stalingrad, but they were going off to a grim war place, war place. And there's a photo of Sophie in the background, sort of like. So there was definitely dicking around going on. Um, and I wanted to represent that and make a nice figure, but also not be flippant, like, oh, these people can't be trusted with flyers, because they very much can. But you're allowed to be a bit silly sometimes, and I feel that was nice to put in. So more of a heartwarming sort of thing. And this has been the case with all the figures, where I've been trying to find something that sort of pins it to being them, so they're not just generic resistance. There's something linking it to them. In a symbolic sort of way. I said this before, I think especially with like the community minis, where I see them as like a statue, a public statue, where it's a representation. So sometimes things might not have been exactly like that, but that's a good way of symbolizing this person. So one that I designed today, I'm going to go on now, was Odette Sampson /Hallows/Churchill. And I had all the information from her, and I had some pictures of her in her uniform. I just didn't know what to do with her. Because again, how do you make a model of someone who's passing information on? Um, writing. I've got a few already that are writing something, but I can't have a whole range of people just writing stuff or going piece of paper or thank you for the piece of paper. Um, so I got a bit stuck on Odette basically, and then last night I watched the film Odette, which I highly recommend. It's on. I watched it on Prime. I know Prime, boo. But I have it, so there. But it's also, I found out afterwards, it's on YouTube as well. It's still the ones where you have to pay. So paying for films, especially nearly 80-year-old films on Prime, is not happy about. But I can justify it when it's work. It's in like, oh, it's just fine. The time or whatever to go out and find it on DVD is longer. It's fine, but it's not fine. But it's at least a good quality on there. So I watched the film last night. Really enjoyed it because I find them a bit hit and miss, some of those films, especially when they kind of add that bit of Hollywood zhuzh. I found out that Odette was like a advisor on the film, and it's known to be very accurate. There's obviously a few bits where they're like, "Oh, this would make a cool scene," but it's generally what happened. And I found that was so useful, just watching things, because I've been trying to figure out jumpsuits and things for parachuting. And there's a bit where Peter Churchill's jumping and they're chatting, and as they're chatting, he's kind of like, they're all helping him take all the clips and stuff off. And just little bits like that. I'm like, yes, I need to watch more films. So I did ask for some film recommendations in Baggy's Cave. Um, uh, yeah, I'll keep them to there. I was going to say ask here, but I'll scribble them down and not see them. You could recommend me some, and then if they're ones I haven't seen, I'll write them down. If I don't write them down, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. It means it's probably over there. So in regards to just the information, because I've been absorbing so much information as well. For Odette, it's been lovely watching interviews of her as well. She did survive, spoiler. And something interesting, I don't know if I'm onto something or not. The women I've researched so far, they either die in the war, but if they don't, they seem to be at least 90 when they die. Like if you survive that, you're rewarded with this long life. I don't know if it's just coincidence, but they all seem to die really old if they haven't died horribly young in the war. So that's interesting. Um, So the people who did survive, it's wonderful that there's so many videos and interviews with them. There's one who's still alive that I'm currently arranging to do a video chat with, which, if that happens, would be amazing. But if she's not up for it, then I'm going to try and get just some questions for her grandson to ask her. So that's exciting, because I'm like, these are the actual legend heroes. And if I'd got into this, even 10 years earlier, there'd have been so many more people to talk to. So it's why it's even more important to preserve this information, because it's leaving with them. And I was thinking about it, like those interviews that are on YouTube, if that YouTube channel goes, then it's quite easy for them all to be gone. So now I've got into like, I need to keep some of this. I need to start archiving it. I know there are the archives, but even more of these sort of informal pieces. I'm rambling on. How sip of this? Sip of this. Oh, I can see it getting bigger there. Blah. The foot one's the worst. So Odette, yeah, watching the film, reading about her before that, then watching her interviews as well, really, really helped. So I've managed to photos of her and from watching it again today, but taking photographs of it and pausing it. I figured out how to make her into a figure, and I'm really really excited by that. And one of the things, because again, like this is where Alan's going to help me. There's some of the figures, and I had a chat with him yesterday, where I'm not entirely sure of the pose, but I know kind of what I want. He's going to do me a little sketch before he starts. So we're going to both work on the pose, which is, yes. So I haven't got her entirely down yet, but I will once Alan's looked at it and gone, yes. But she's kind of going to be listening out for something. But then she's going to have an arm down. And in her arm, just lowered down, she's going to have a poker, like for the fire, because she got content warning torture, only mild and short torture mentioned, but still, I'll be very brief. But she obviously she was in Ravensbrück concentration camp, and before that she was tortured by the Gestapo, who would, what specifically the Gestapo anyway, the Nazis. And one of the things they did was burn her with a poker. And it's emotional and really fascinating to see her talking about that as an older woman, looking back on it all. They did some horrible stuff to her, as you can imagine. And while working, she wouldn't have had randomly a poker to use as self-defense to maybe attack a Nazi with. But it also wouldn't be a wild idea that at some point, whilst she's skulking about spying, she could pick up an inanimate object just in case. So that's a case where the history is not twisted, but it's before this happens to her, but it's a symbol. So in the games, you can potentially have Odette Churchill, Samson Hallows, you getting a Nazi with a poker, which she never got the chance to do, if that makes sense. So there's little bits like that. I'm like giving her a little bit of justice that she could get the chance. In your game you could do that, but it's also not historically inaccurate that she might have picked up a poker along the way somewhere. So yeah, I just think that's kind of cool. The film's I think it's a PG. And I was like, bloody hell, they're doing the torture. Not fully, but it's still very upsetting. Totally shows certification has changed. There's so much from like the 80s, which is a 12. You're like, no, that should be a 15. So she said at the very end, so obviously it's just been me watching film and crying. At the end, a thing comes up which is in a little handwritten, and I've got it printed off because I want to do something with it. And it says, "It is with a sense of deep humility that I allow my personal story to be told. I'm a very ordinary woman to whom a chance was given to see human beings at their best and at their worst. I knew kindness as well as cruelty, understanding as well as brutality. My comrades who did far more and suffered far more profoundly are not here to speak. It is to their memory that this film has been made, and I'd like it to be a window through which may be seen these very gallant women with whom I had the honour to serve. And that was a quote from Odette Churchill. That's a really nice ending to it, and that's it. It's, you know, it's about people finding these sorts of things out. And again, it's just so even more important with this sort of stuff being deleted actively at the moment. So an act of resistance is to spread the information. And I've said throughout the research for this that finding those acts of resistance that ordinary people can do, where you don't have to sign up to the SOE or join the army, but smaller acts that people can do whilst maintaining a vague sort of normality, but that en masse can make change. And one of them being spreading information. Oh, it was a monologue. What else have I got in for this before I won't go more than an hour. I won't tell you about all the people we're doing, but I've got in front of me the list of, we've got, ooh, is that open there? My mega file. Could call out the countries that I've got so far. I have Belgium. I'm looking at my spreadsheet. Oh no, what if you see it in my glasses? Oh no. I've got Belgium, Czech. I don't know how to categorize Czech and Slovak and Czechoslovakia and Czechia. I don't know what to call that yet. I haven't fully looked that up. Denmark, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, UK. Get the UK back in there, and the USSR. There's going to be more, but they're the ones that are done so far. Done. And now I'm just doing some more bits of research. Obviously, loads more will come, and I know throughout this whole thing is me going, yep, we need to get these done first, though, you know. And it's like, have you done this one? Are you going to do this one? Oh, if you did this one, I'm like, please do these. It's very expensive to get all these done, so it needs to go well to fund more. It's not funding us, but it's not funding a sports car. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't get a sports car. But you know, I say this all the time. It'll pay my rent, pay my bills, buy me a Nidhogger mead, and then pretty much the rest just goes back into making more cool stuff. Because I have totally realised, well, anyway, but this is all I want to do, and I'm very obsessed with it. And that's a good thing. But it's definitely this research part and the design, and that's what I really, really, really love. And I want to do loads more of it. And I'm hoping to be able to do some, you know, videos and other medias to do little talkings about. So a bit like what I've done with Odette there, and just do a video on Odette. They won't be mega fancy or anything, but it's just more ways of sort of telling these tales. I'm going to reward you with a sculpt of Vera Alaska, and I will briefly tell you about her because you've probably not heard. Oh, here's Alan's sketch for the skulls. Of course you can't. There we are. Yay! Perfection. Oh, just as did I miss a date announcement. I'm hoping the goal is the 27th of August, which gives me 2 months. Yeah, there's 2 months, which will go really quickly. I could potentially have done something the end of July, but I want to give it more time so I can get them sculpted, cast, painted, especially if there's going to be heat waves, because my painter just kind of melts in the heat as well. Then I want to do a whole bunch of photos with them, and I won't be able to do with all of them because there's always ones that'll be done later. But I want to have a good amount of them painted so I can do 1 million photographs, and then I can do 1 million posters and videos and all that sort of stuff. I'm even going to do little like TikToks, and I can have the Hans and Sophie scroll and then sort of zoom away and be like, did you know about these people? So I want to really lean into it, and it's giving me that little bit of extra time, hopefully, that if I die or melt, not die as if I like have a failure and have some mental health crisis for a couple of weeks. That's built in, so that's pretty good. And 27th crosses over a payday, of course. And I'm aiming. So when I launched this, when I announced it, I was partnering up with 2 companies. Haven't told you who they are yet, have I? I will now be partnering up with 3 companies because everyone wants to get involved. So there's going to be extra bits on top of that as well. So it does mean that I will also be relying on 3 other people getting stuff in time. Very reliable people, some pretty chill. But I'll probably officially do the date for February or something, just in case. We'll see close to the time. But aim to get them, God, maybe even October-ish. Good job the cast is not watching. I want to get them out so I can do more and more. And also, they're not all going to go straight to retail afterwards. And it's partly a cynical drive. I shouldn't say this. It's partly my cynical drive to get more people back in the Kickstarter. Partly, but also for practical reasons. So I don't want to have another 20 codes basically after this. Because I've already got lots and lots of codes. I'm trying to condense the range a bit more, which sounds counteractive, but it's more condense the amount of codes. So things like shops, it's called Scoobloat, basically. I'll always have 1 million codes because that's the nature of the business. But having lots of individuals, it's kind of harder for shops and things like that. So it's not a very good explanation, really. Partly, that's part of the reason. It's not the main reason. The main reason is I'd like them to be, it's kind of joined in actually. Some of the figures I don't think people may buy by themselves, specifically. I think as a group, people will go, oh yeah, cool. And there's always going to be the winners. I think Hans and Sophie are going to be winners. I think Simone and Seguin is going to be a winner. But some of the more unusual, sort of lesser featured countries, I think outside of the people backing the Kickstarter, there might not be as much drive afterwards to go, oh, here's this named person, I will buy them, to justify, the separate packaging, the shelf space at shops, all that sort of stuff. But as a little set, they will. So, for example, spoiler, in the Netherlands, I've got Hanny Shaft, Freddie Overstegen, Truce Overstegen. After the Kickstarter, I've already gone, yep, you 3 hung out and you're all buds. 2 of you were sisters. You will be a really good pack. Some other random ones I think will eventually get put with someone from a later Kickstarter, which also helps with the molds. So it means that I don't have to make a single mold for all of these people or double molds, however it works. However it works out. Not, I don't know how it works. Again, more information than you needed. But it means that I don't have to give them their own mold, which is another cost, which would then take away some of the cost of the actual money that's supposed to come at the end of it. So it means that some will come out after the Kickstarter. So Hanny, Truce, and Freddie will come out, for example. The Shoals will come out. But some of the others are going to wait. So after the Kickstarter, there'll be a wait. And then maybe there'll be another, well, there will be another Kickstarter, which will have more people from that country. And then, and then after that Kickstarter, you can join them in a pack. So say, for example, I've got one Italian. I might not want to release it, although the one I'm doing, I'm totally going to release by myself. But for example, yeah, I might just wait because I'm going to do a load of Italian stuff. What? Spoiler? And then, yeah, then we can all be friends in a pack. Things like that. Or she can say there's 5 just because I've got 5 fingers, and the 6th one goes hello, and then they will spread off into 2 packs of 3, stuff like that. So it's all thinking ahead. So it is a bit of a you may miss it sort of thing. I'm tempted. I've got a really good idea for a Kickstarter exclusive. I've got a couple of people, at least one in the chat, who refused to Kickstarter. And that's fine. I'll try and encourage you there because that's where all the action is. But if you absolutely do not Kickstarter, we can sort it out manually and you'll still get just send me an email or something when it launches. and we can sort it out outside of that, but you'll still get anything, you know, exclusive. Of people to confirm that that will happen. So there's no reason to panic in that sort of sense. So I've got books everywhere. I don't think I'm going to do any more research tonight. I've been compiling some films to watch. I've not seen Carve Her Name with Pride, and Violette's not in this run of minis, but she's going to be at some point. Oh my God. But it's just going to be lots of relevant stuff and keeping me in the zone. I'm in the World War II zone solidly now. Everything is the war. There is only war. But there is also other wars. Other bits before I go. It's been announced that I will be wobbling around. I will be at a few events. It seems to be the summer where I go to stuff where I'm not trading. So it's been announced I'll be at Sutton Who the last weekend of July. Sutton Who, which is a Anglo-Saxon site in the UK. I've only been to as a child, so I can't really remember other than going, wow, this is really cool. And I will be there for their Summer of Play. So it's Summer of Play and Summer of Resistance. I shared it around the social medias. I'll put another thing in the, update like next week with more information. But I will be there for the weekend with various other gamers, not as bad Squiddo, but just as a war game. I'm always wanting to talk bad Squiddos. Come along. But we will be playing different 6th and 7th century games, which I've got to learn beforehand, and I'll be helping teach some people to paint. I think I can figure out how to do that. All those beginnery type things. And just before that, I've got a talk on Anglo-Saxon women as well. So I want to learn enough that I can tell people about the Anglo-Saxon women that I've learned about. There's obviously the famous ones, but I'm looking at earlier because it's early. Even though it doesn't matter, it's all still Anglo-Saxon. But I want to have a bit more of a look into that when I need a War II break. So I'll be at that. I'll be at Games Transformed in like a couple weeks or something. That's, I think it's the 12th of July. It's soon. I should get my plans for that sorted. Which is a bit of an anarchist, anti-fascism games event thing that I'm still not entirely sure what it is, but I'll be there. I'll be there on a panel with some other interesting war games people. It's lots of all sorts of games rather than just tabletop. I think it's like how we can be political and proactive and all this in different ways, I think. God, no, a bit of breeze there. So I'm going to be at that. I'm going to be at PeachCon, though I need to talk to Peachy because I just saw that it's on the same weekend as Bring Out Your Lead, which I've also committed to. So I may be at PeachCon, but I think I'll go and I'll take colouring in rather than a stand. I might take colouring in and maybe like one display cabinet or something like that, but do it in easy mode so I can get there on the morning and do it by car. If anyone was passing wanted to pick me up at all. You come in the other way. But yeah, I need to get the stuff together with him as well. And that's all stuff where, yeah, I won't be in super work mode and we can actually have a chat if I'm at the thing, and that'll be really nice. So there's lots of nice things coming up. But I've also got to stay on target with World War II. I already had a moment of like, oh, I could do some early Anglo-Saxon. No, Annie, not yet. But I also do want to do that. But I really need to get some of this resistance out of my system for a little bit. And it's just so poignant with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. So that's the main. I have a couple bits I was going to show off. I just found this in the garage and I can't remember where I got it from. It's another Mantic Freer. I think I got it at an open day, but that would be very generous of them. It's one of the Revenants. He's got such an angled head. Come on now. Not in the ideal casting zones. It's also odd that it's because of the plume. That's why it goes to the side. You've seen my free up ghoul. I've got the skeleton, but it's somewhere in the garage, painted as a bit of terrain. But I was well chuffed. I found this just before the show. I was hunting something out and went, oh, nice. So I don't know what I'll do with him, whether I'll make him a giant or another piece of terrain that's got the nice filigree on there. Other cool things I can't remember if I showed. I've made a bit more progress on the dragon, but he's kind of stopped while I've been warring. But he's getting there. He's getting there. I'm really close to just finishing this off. Not far. There's a lot of painted bits, but it's been taken over by books at the moment, and because I can only think of one thing at once, that is why. Aside from my, well, I said trillionth shower, second shower of the day. So I will get out of here. I don't think I've got anything else immediately to show off. Will I be here next week? Started using my calendar more instead of writing it, and then realising I've left the writing at the office. What have I got? Oh, that's a cool event I'm not telling you about. Yeah, Games Transformed is the Saturday. Then there's a gap, then it's Sutton Who, then there's a gap, then it's PeachCon, then there's a gap, or then there's BritCon. I'm going to go to BritCon just for a wander. I don't. And there's no. I was like, I had it in my head. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do the Lardy event at BritCon, but there isn't one this year, and I've missed all that. But it's only again, it's Leicester. I'm a fan of supporting stuff, so I'm gonna go and have a mosey around there. Probably get more iced coffees, which is just having far too many of. Right, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna stay up for a bit more. See you in the week, and if I'm a bit quiet, it's because I'm doing the war. Skipping over multiple compromise. It does compromise itself. Right, I am gonna get out of here. Thank you for coming along and spread the word of the show. Give it a little thumb up as well. And have a good evening. And if you're in the heat wave, I hope the meltageddon. I hope you liked my thumbnail of a kind of melting turkey man, because that is how I felt this week. Bye.